Would your husband ever leave you, without warning, on your wedding anniversary, and forget to take the one thing that could unravel everything? That's what mine did. 7 years together. One perfect dinner. One final lie. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I also don't regret it. Because if I hadn't opened that message, if I hadn't followed the waiter, if I hadn't stepped into that hotel room, I wouldn't be alive to tell you this. Let me take you back to that night. The night my marriage ended. And the truth came back to the table wearing a pressed uniform, holding a folded note, and saying, "Ma'am, I think this was meant for you. But let's start just a few hours earlier." It was supposed to be romantic. The kind of dinner you remember forever, not because it all went wrong, but because it all felt right. I wore this emerald green dress Ethan once said made my eyes look like witchcraft. His words, not mine. We had reservations at Verona, a rooftop restaurant downtown that overlooked the bay. Jazz trio playing. Candlelight flickering. One of those places where the waiter pulls out your chair and doesn't hand you the bill until you ask twice. I had even booked the corner table ahead of time, the one farthest from the windows so the wind wouldn't catch my hair when it got breezy. Ethan always used to say I was beautiful when I looked annoyed with the world. Again, his words. I got there first. Which wasn't unusual. He texted me he was parking. Then nothing. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. Then 20. Right when I started counting how many couples around me were actually talking to each other versus just scrolling Instagram, Ethan finally arrived. He looked good. Fresh-pressed navy suit. Slight tan like he'd been out golfing. Not a single hair out of place. His tie was the exact shade of burgundy that matched the roses on the table. But something was off. You know how you can tell someone is with you physically, but not mentally? That was Ethan. He kissed my cheek barely. Sat down. Ordered wine without even asking me. And then he checked his phone. Again. And again. And again. Everything okay? I asked, pretending to glance at the menu when I was really watching him. He looked up. Smiled that same rehearsed smile he used on his clients when he was lying through his teeth. Just work stuff, he said. They're rolling something out early. I might have to step out. On our anniversary? He reached across the table, touched my hand. His was cold. I'll make it up to you. I promise. I didn't respond. I just stared at the man I had loved for 7 years, who had stopped saying I love you before leaving the house. Maybe you felt that too. That slow silence that replaces intimacy. The invisible wedge neither of you wants to talk about but both of you can feel like glass pressing in. Then came the first twist. Ethan's phone buzzed. He looked down. Blanched. Crap, he muttered. I've got to go. It's urgent. He stood up too fast. Dropped his napkin. Left his phone on the table. Wait, what's going on? Ethan. He turned, waved vaguely in my direction, and walked out. Didn't even grab his phone. Didn't even look back. Now tell me. What would you have done? Would you have followed him? Called after him? Checked his phone? Or would you have just sat there in that overpriced restaurant, pretending the man you married wasn't sprinting towards something he couldn't bring you into? I wish I could say I handled it gracefully. That I left the restaurant with dignity, never looked back, never gave him the satisfaction of my tears. But I didn't leave. I sat there, staring at that phone. One corner of the screen was cracked. Same crack from when he dropped it on our last trip to New York. It was familiar. Comforting. But the man attached to it? Suddenly, I wasn't so sure. That's when Luca appeared. The waiter. Young. Mid-20s maybe. Soft brown eyes. Polished smile. He approached with hesitation, like he knew something I didn't. Ma'am, excuse me, he said. I looked up. Yes. He glanced down at the table, then at the phone. Then back at me. I think your husband might have left something behind. I almost laughed. His phone. But Luca didn't laugh. He wasn't talking about the phone. He reached into his apron and pulled out a small, folded piece of cardstock. It was cream-colored, high quality, almost like a wedding invitation. Folded once, sealed with a sticker shaped like a tiny rose. He hesitated, then handed it to me. I was supposed to give this to the woman he was with, he said quietly. But something didn't feel right. My breath caught. What is this? I asked, my voice thinner than I wanted it to be. He didn't answer. Just stepped back and disappeared into the shadows of the restaurant like he was never there. I broke the seal. And my world changed in one sentence. Room 614. Wear that red dress I love. I stared at the note. I didn't own a red dress. Not one. And suddenly I knew this note wasn't for me. Whoever he wrote this to, he thought she'd get it. Whoever she wasn't me. Whoever he was with. She was supposed to be wearing something I'd never worn for a man I no longer recognized. I looked at the phone. It buzzed. A new message lit up the screen. From a contact saved as TL, just initials. The preview line was short. Casual. Cruel. I'm already at the room. You were right to leave her. Red heart. And that's when my fingers started to shake. I hadn't opened the phone yet. But I would. Not just because I wanted answers. But because, deep down, I already knew the truth. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was planned. He didn't forget his phone. He left it. And what it held inside would unravel everything. But what came next? What the waiter said later. What I found in room 614. That was something no one was prepared for. Not Ethan. Not me. Not even her. And it all started with a dress. One I'd never worn. And a man I thought I knew. Would you open your husband's phone if you knew, absolutely knew, you'd never see him the same way again? I didn't touch it at first. It just sat there, buzzing now and then, like a live wire. Every time it lit up, I flinched. As if the truth could shock me through the glass. Luca was gone. The little cream card still sat in front of me, folded open like a death sentence in cursive. Room 614. Wear that red dress I love. And then came the detail that twisted the knife. He didn't just think she had the dress. He believed she'd be wearing it tonight. The question I kept asking myself was why now? Why on our night? Why not just lie? Fake a headache? Tell me he had a late meeting like usual? Why leave his phone? Why let the whole illusion shatter in 10 seconds? But the most dangerous question, the one that I hadn't even dared to speak out loud yet. Was it just another woman? Or something worse? I picked up the phone. Not to open it. Not yet. Just to hold it. To feel the weight of it in my hand like it might tell me something his words never did. The screen was locked, but not with Face ID. Just a code. And I already knew the code. It was my birthday. The one detail Ethan always remembered. Except this year, he'd forgotten to say it. For numbers. A quiet beep. And, just like that, the gates opened. Let me tell you something no one likes to admit. When you suspect someone's cheating on you, you don't hope you're wrong. You hope they're bad at hiding it. Because nothing hurts more than being right and still never finding proof. But Ethan? He wasn't just bad at hiding it. He was careless. Almost inviting me to catch him. There were no hidden folders, no deleted message threads, no burner apps disguised as calculators. It was all just there. TL. Pinned at the top of his messages. Dozens of texts. Photos. Voice notes. He didn't even bother giving her a fake name. One video caught my eye instantly because it was taken in our house. Our bedroom. Same pillows. Same curtains. Except in the mirror, a woman stood holding up my red lipstick. Wearing a red dress. Smiling into the phone camera like she owned the place. It wasn't me. And it wasn't Natalie either. It was someone else. Someone I had never seen in my life. She was younger. Maybe mid-20s. Long black hair. A gold anklet. I noticed the anklet because I'd seen it before on Ethan's car floor months ago. He told me it must have been from the gym. Someone's bracelet or something, he'd shrugged. And I'd believed him. Tell me, would you have believed that? Would you have accepted it, filed it under random junk, and moved on? Or would that have been your breaking point? Because for me, it wasn't. I hadn't broken yet. But I would. I stood up from the table. The wine was half full. The food hadn't arrived. But suddenly I couldn't breathe. Every couple around me looked like they were performing for an invisible audience. Laugh louder. Smile harder. Clink glasses like everything is fine. I walked past Luca, who caught my eye but said nothing, and down the staircase that led to the valet stand. Ethan's phone buzzed again. Same name. TL. The new message said. Took longer than I thought. Winking face. Hope she bought it. I'll leave the door open. You'd think that would have been the moment I screamed. Or cried. Or threw the phone into the ocean. But all I felt was cold. Not sadness. Not even anger yet. Just a hollow, sharp-edged coldness. The valet brought around my car. I slipped into the driver's seat and stared at the screen. There was an address pinned in the chat. Not just room 614, but the full hotel name and location. Less than 15 minutes away. The words pulsed on the screen like a dare. Would you go? Would you drive there alone at night? Would you walk up to that room, knock on the door, and look your betrayal straight in the eye? Or would you delete the message, block the number, and go home to pack a suitcase? I didn't do either. I put the car in drive. And I went. The hotel wasn't seedy. It was the kind of sleek, discreet luxury that makes no noise. All grays and blacks. Dim lighting. Scented lobby. Too quiet. Too clean. The front desk didn't even ask what I was doing. Why would they? I had a key card. Still in my purse. Still folded in that little cream envelope the waiter gave me. Room 614. I took the elevator in silence. At floor 6, I stepped out, walked down the carpeted hallway, heart hammering harder with each step. The door was slightly ajar. Just like the message said. I pushed it open. And what I saw wasn't what I expected. No woman. No Ethan. Just soft jazz playing on the speaker. A bottle of champagne on ice. Roses on the bed. And one detail that stopped me cold. A second key card. Sitting on the nightstand. With a note beneath it that read. Same time next week? I think we're almost ready to tell her. Tell me what? That you've been lying? That you're in love with someone else? Or something worse? I stepped further into the room. There was a receipt on the desk. Hotel invoice. One guest, Ethan Sullivan. Second guest listed as T. Lorne. That name again. Not a username. Not an alias. A full name. I picked up the second key card and slipped it into my pocket. The phone buzzed again. I checked it. Message from TL again. Still in the shower. Be out soon. Leave the tie on the handle. Winking face. And that's when I froze. Because the bathroom door? It creaked. Just a little. And then it started to open. Have you ever stood so still that your heartbeat felt louder than your breath? That's what I did. I froze completely. I didn't back away. I didn't run. I didn't scream. I just stood in the center of that perfectly staged hotel room, staring at the crack in the bathroom door as it slowly widened. Time stretched like molasses. The handle turned. Soft. Smooth. Deliberate. But no one came out. Instead, I heard the sound of running water turn off. Then silence. The kind of silence that feels heavy. Like it's watching you. I don't know how long I waited. Maybe 30 seconds. Maybe 3 full minutes. But no one stepped out. I backed away toward the hallway, my shoes somehow noiseless on the carpet, adrenaline numbing every movement. One final look. Bed. Roses. Note. Second key card in my pocket. And a bathroom door slightly open, with someone still inside. I turned and walked fast. Not a sprint. Not a panic. Just enough speed to say, I was never here. But in my chest? A fire had started. And it was about to consume everything I thought I knew. When I got home, I went straight to our bedroom. Same bedspread. Same bedside candle. Same throw pillow Ethan always said we didn't need but never actually moved. I walked into the closet. And I already knew what I was looking for. Because once someone tells another woman to wear that red dress I love, your brain flips into detective mode. But here's the thing. I never owned a red dress. I'd never worn a red dress, not for Ethan. Not ever. Not even when we were dating. So how would he know which one he loved? Unless it belonged to someone else. Someone who kept it here. In our home. I pulled back the hangers. Black blazer. Navy blouse. Emerald dress from the dinner. A few cocktail dresses from friends' weddings. Then I saw it, stuffed at the very back, behind my winter coat. Not hung properly. Not even zipped in a garment bag. Just shoved there. Bright red. Satin. Slit up the leg. Still smelling faintly of perfume I didn't wear. I reached out and touched the fabric like it might bite me. It was hers. But it had been here. Which meant she had been here too. In my house. In my closet. In my space. And Ethan? He never said a word. What would you do in that moment? Would you scream? Cry? Tear the dress into pieces and set it on fire? Because that's what TV would tell you to do. But me? I just stood there, staring at it, like a museum exhibit. Because it confirmed something worse than cheating. It confirmed a second life. Not a fling. Not a one-night thing. This was methodical. Planned. Coordinated. She had clothes here. She'd stayed here. Probably more than once. And if she was the one in the hotel room tonight, then where the hell was Ethan? I sat down on the edge of the bed with his phone still in my hand. I hadn't checked his photos earlier. Now I did. And the very first one made my stomach drop. It was a mirror selfie. Bathroom background. Dim lighting. But clear enough. And there she was again. The woman in the red dress. Taking the photo with my toothbrush in the background. My robe hanging on the hook behind her. She wasn't just here. She was comfortable here. Like she belonged. And Ethan? He was in the mirror too. Standing behind her. Shirtless. Kissing her neck. The photo was time-stamped 5 days ago. 5 days before our anniversary. I stared at it for so long I forgot to blink. Until the phone buzzed again. New message. This time, from someone else. Natalie. My best friend. I opened it. Hey, just checking in. You okay? Haven't heard from you. Let me know if I should still swing by tomorrow to help with the party stuff. The party. I'd almost forgotten. We were planning a small anniversary gathering. Just friends, wine, charcuterie, fake smiles. Natalie had offered to help decorate. Said she had a surprise planned. Now, reading that text, every word felt radioactive. I stared at her contact photo. It was the two of us on my birthday. Laughing. Holding wine. She was wearing a tiny gold necklace I'd given her. A necklace that looked suspiciously like the one the woman in the hotel photo was wearing. No, it couldn't be her. Could it? No. Natalie was my friend. She knew everything about my marriage. The highs, the lows, the fights, the things I never told anyone else. She'd even helped me pick out the dress for the dinner. No, but still. I had to be sure. So I did something petty. Maybe even paranoid. I texted her back. Hey, change of plans. I'm at the hotel. Room 614. Drop by if you're nearby, smiley face. It was bait. And she took it. 3 little dots popped up instantly. Then her message. What hotel? No heart emoji. No delay. No playing dumb. Just immediate panic. What kind of best friend panics when you say you're at a hotel room? Unless she knows exactly what hotel and exactly what room. I didn't respond. Instead, I called the front desk of the hotel. I asked casually if a guest named T. Lauren was checked in. The clerk hesitated, then said no one by that name was currently a guest. Which made no sense. She was there. I saw the texts. The note. The room. Unless T. Lauren wasn't her real name either. And Ethan wasn't just cheating. He was hiding someone. I scrolled back through his messages with TL. One photo caught my eye. It was a selfie of her at some lakeside cabin. But in the reflection behind her was a familiar painting. A painting I hadn't seen in years. Because it hung inside a farmhouse Ethan inherited from his grandfather. A place he told me he hadn't visited in over a year. He lied. Again. And now I had more questions than answers. Who was TL? Why was she staying at the farmhouse? Why was Ethan trying to hide her from everyone, including me? And why did the only person who seemed to know anything was a waiter named Luca? Because when I looked up the hotel's recent staff on their website, Luca's name wasn't there. He wasn't on the team roster. Not in any department. Not a host. Not a waiter. Not a busser. He didn't work there. He never had. So who was he? And why did he want me to find that note? What came next would lead me somewhere I didn't expect. Not to my husband. Not to my best friend. But to a secret hidden in plain sight. And the next person to reveal it wouldn't even knock on the door first. Would you return to the scene of your own betrayal? To the exact place you realized your marriage was a lie? Most people would say no. They'd slam the door shut. Cry it out. Maybe trash the dress, delete the photos, block the number. But I'm not most people. And this wasn't just a betrayal. It was a message. Room 614 wasn't an accident. It was planned. A performance. And I'd walked in at intermission. But I hadn't seen the full show. Not yet. The next morning, I drove back to the hotel. Same elevator. Same hallway. Same metallic taste of dread on my tongue. The room wasn't open this time. But I still had the key. The one Luca had handed me the night before. I slid it into the lock. Click. The door opened with a soft beep. And that's when I knew something had changed. Because everything inside had been reset. No champagne. No roses. No note. Just a perfectly cleaned hotel room that smelled like lemon and bleach. The bed was made. Towels replaced. Not a single trace of the night before. But there was one thing still there. Something the cleaning staff had missed or maybe left. On the floor by the armchair was a scarf. Thin. Silk. Red with tiny gold specks. It didn't belong to me. It didn't belong to Ethan. I picked it up. And underneath it, half tucked into the seat cushion, was a business card. White. No logo. No phone number. Just one name. T. Lorne. Followed by 3 words. Keep your silence. Now tell me. What would you do with a card like that? Would you show it to the police? Call a lawyer? Or would you, like me, drive straight to the one place Ethan swore he hadn't been in over a year? Because I had a theory now. And it wasn't just about cheating. It was about erasure. Ethan wasn't just hiding another woman. He was hiding her existence. The drive to the farmhouse took 2 hours. Long enough for every scenario to run through my head. What if she was there? What if he was? What if I found more than I bargained for? But still, I drove. The farmhouse sat at the edge of a wooded property, tucked behind a gravel road no GPS could find. Old. Isolated. Quiet. Too quiet. I pulled up slowly, tires crunching on rock. No cars. No movement. Except a single curtain in the upstairs window shifted. Like someone had just peeked. I got out. Heart pounding. Walked up to the porch. The front door was unlocked. Just like the hotel room had been. Inside, the air smelled stale. With smoke, dust, and something else. Something sharp. Metallic. I stepped in. Hello. Silence. The living room looked untouched. Old couch. Family photos of Ethan's childhood. A dusty piano. But there were new footprints in the dust. Recent. Leading toward the hallway. I followed them. One led to the downstairs bedroom. The other to the basement door. Which was open. Would you go down? Into a basement you didn't know existed? Where someone might be waiting. I didn't want to. But I did. Step by step. The stairs creaked with every inch of weight. At the bottom, concrete floor. One bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. And in the center of the room, a small metal trunk. Locked. But not tight. I pried it open. Inside? Files. Dozens of them. Passports. Driver's licenses. All different names. All different photos. But the faces? The same woman. The woman from the hotel room. From the mirror photo. From Ethan's phone. T. Lorne. But each ID had a different name. Samantha Quinn. Eliza Grant. Natalie Taylor. Wait. Natalie? No. That couldn't be. My best friend. Wasn't her. Or was she? I dug deeper. At the bottom of the trunk, one final item. A photo. Black and white. Slightly faded. Ethan. With his arm around T. Lorne. But younger. College-aged. The back of the photo had a date. June 2012. And one line scribbled in ink. You promised to protect me. Now the lies had layers. This wasn't a recent affair. This was a history. A past Ethan never told me about. So who is she? A former girlfriend? A stalker? Someone he hurt or someone he saved? Whatever the truth was, it started long before I ever entered the picture. I left the basement with the photo in my hand. And as I came back up into the living room, the front door creaked open. A gust of wind. Or something else. I stepped back, ready to run, heart hammering again. Then, a voice behind me. Low, calm, controlled. Claire. I turned. And there he was. Ethan. Standing in the doorway. Like he hadn't vanished. Like he hadn't lied. Like everything was fine. What are you doing here? He asked, his voice sharp but empty. I held up the photo. This is what I'm doing here. He didn't even flinch. Just stepped inside. Closed the door behind him. You shouldn't have come, he said. Then he looked past me. Not at me. And that's when I realized he wasn't alone. Someone else had come with him. Footsteps approached behind him, slow and steady. A shadow crossed the porch. I stepped back, photo still clutched in my hand. The person stepped into the light. And it was Luca, the waiter. But this time, he wasn't wearing an apron. He was wearing a badge. Would you trust someone who lied to your face if they claimed they were doing it to protect you? Because that's exactly what Luca said next. He stepped fully into the room, the door shutting behind him with a quiet finality. He wasn't smiling this time. No smooth waiter charm. No polite phrases. Just a hard stare. His voice was even, but there was a new weight in it now. Claire, I need you to stay calm. And I need you to listen. That's always a bad sign, isn't it? Whenever someone says, stay calm, it means the next thing they're about to say is going to knock the air out of your lungs. I looked at Ethan, standing there silent, eyes locked on Luca with something between contempt and fear. Start talking, I said. Now. Luca reached into his jacket and pulled out a badge. Real, polished, and terrifying. Private Intelligence. Harlan Group. Missing Persons Division. He flashed it for just a second. Enough for me to see the words. Then he tucked it away again like it was radioactive. You're not a waiter, I said. No, Luca replied. But I had to be. Let me rewind for you. Because I needed Luca to explain it all, every lie, every manipulation, every moment that didn't make sense. And he did. Starting from the top. Lauren, he said, isn't a mistress. She's a target. A protected one. I stared at him. Protected? From what? Luca didn't blink. From him. He pointed at Ethan. That's when Ethan finally spoke. His voice was icy. You don't know what you're talking about. But Luca ignored him. She was placed in witness protection over 2 years ago, he said. She disappeared after filing a sealed federal case involving financial crimes, coercion, and identity laundering. My heart stopped. Identity laundering? I repeated. Luca nodded. Your husband isn't just cheating, Claire. He's been using her and her aliases. Stealing them. Selling them. Ethan laughed. Sharp. Cold. Defensive. This is absurd. Luca didn't even flinch. She came to us with proof. Bank records. Email chains. Fake companies linked to your name, Claire. Your name. That part sent ice down my spine. What are you talking about? Shell accounts, Luca said. He's been opening them for months. Routing money through your social security number. Setting you up to take the fall. Let me pause here. Because this wasn't just betrayal. This was construction. Ethan hadn't just been cheating on me emotionally. He'd been building a crime scene, and I was supposed to be the one in the middle of it. That's when I remembered the insurance policy. 2 weeks ago, he'd casually mentioned getting our documents updated. Estate planning, he called it. I hadn't thought much of it. But now? I knew. It wasn't about protecting our future. It was about erasing mine. Luca stepped closer. We only got close because she reached out. Told us Ethan was back in her life. We had to act fast. So you posed as a waiter? I asked. I needed to be near him. Track his movements. Watch the handoffs. The hotel was one of his drop points. We never thought he'd bring you there. He looked at Ethan again. You never used to be sloppy. Ethan's face changed. Not angry. Not scared. Smug. She was never supposed to find out, he said. Just like that. No remorse. No denial. Only confirmation. My husband, the man I had loved, trusted, shared everything with, was trying to frame me, vanish with another identity, and leave a trail that made it look like I was the villain. I stepped back, dizzy. How long? I asked him. Ethan tilted his head, like he was doing me a favor. 3 years. 3 years. Half our marriage. Half my life with him, built on a script he was feeding both of us. But why me? I asked. Why go through all of this? He smiled. And I'll never forget what he said. You were convenient. Luca pulled something from his coat. A flash drive. Lauren recorded everything. She kept it hidden in that red scarf. The one you found in the hotel room. My hands trembled. He handed me the drive. This has enough to clear you and bury him. Ethan didn't move. Didn't plead. Just watched me. Like he still had one more move to make. And I was terrified he might. Luca's phone buzzed. He checked it. We need to move, he said. Now. Where? Safe house. You're both persons of interest now on opposite ends. What does that mean? I asked. He looked at me serious. It means we protect you. Then he looked at Ethan. And we detain him. But Ethan? He didn't flinch. He smiled. And that's when Luca paused. As if something didn't add up. As if this wasn't the ending we were expecting. Wait, Luca said slowly. Where's the other woman? My blood ran cold. What other woman? Luca turned pale. There was supposed to be one more. She was on surveillance with Ethan yesterday. We lost track. She hasn't checked in. We thought she might have been Lauren, but... He stopped. And I remembered the message from Natalie. Hey, just checking in. You okay? Oh God. What if Natalie wasn't just innocent? What if she was never a friend? What if she was the one Ethan brought in to replace Lauren? Or worse, what if Natalie was gone? Suddenly the house felt smaller. Tighter. Like we were being watched. Luca moved toward the window. Then he froze. There's someone outside. We all turned. A figure in the distance. Female. Long black coat. Walking slowly toward the porch. But not alone. She was dragging something. No, someone. And the door was still unlocked. How many secrets can one life hold? How many lies can a person balance before the weight collapses? Because in that moment, watching a woman in black drag a body toward the farmhouse, every lie Ethan ever told came crashing down in my chest all at once. Luca reacted first. He drew his gun. Quiet, practiced, military fast. Stay behind me, he said without turning. I didn't argue. Ethan just stood there. Expression unreadable. Like he already knew who it was. Like he expected this. The figure came closer. I could see now it was a woman. Long black coat. Hair pulled into a bun. Tall. Her steps were slow, deliberate, dragging something heavy across the gravel path. When she reached the porch light, it hit her face. And my heart stopped. Natalie. She looked up. Smiled. Like nothing was wrong. Like she wasn't standing there in the dark holding someone's arm over her shoulder. Then she said one word. So casually, I wanted to scream. Hi, Claire. Luca moved to the door. Natalie, put your hands up. She didn't. Instead, she nudged the figure beside her forward. He stumbled into the light. It was Ethan. Another Ethan. Face bruised. Lips split. Shirt torn. Wrists bound. He collapsed on the porch, coughing. The Ethan next to me took a step back. What the hell? I started, staring at both of them. Natalie tilted her head. You didn't know? She said sweetly. Oh, Claire. You really didn't know. And that's when the world turned inside out. Because one of them was Ethan. But the other was someone else entirely. And I'd been married to both. The Ethan inside the house, the one I thought I knew, backed toward the fireplace, his hands up. That man is a con artist, he said fast. He's been impersonating me for years. She's part of it. She's unstable. Natalie raised an eyebrow. You really going to lie now? She asked. Luca looked between them. Claire. Which one's your husband? I couldn't answer. Because my mind was unraveling. The bruised Ethan on the floor looked smaller, leaner, paler. But he had the same eyes, the same voice. The one inside the house, he had the posture, the clothes, the presence. But suddenly that didn't mean anything. Natalie stepped inside. He replaced him, she said. Took his name, his career, even his marriage. She pointed at the one inside. That man is not Ethan Sullivan. His name is Garrett Hale. My stomach twisted. No, I've known Ethan since college. No, Claire, Natalie interrupted. You met Garrett after your first trip to Paris. That was 4 months after the real Ethan disappeared. The bruised man, still on the floor, nodded weakly. I was drugged, he rasped. Left in Panama. Passport stolen. He used my identity. I shook my head, trying to breathe. Luca stepped in. This is bigger than we thought. Garrett's been linked to 3 other identity swaps. Always clean. Always quiet. The fake Ethan Garrett shrugged. Clean until now. Then he lunged. For me. It happened fast. He grabbed my wrist, twisting it toward him. I barely registered Luca firing. 1 shot. Clean. Garrett crumpled to the floor. Alive. But unconscious. Natalie walked past him like he was furniture. Guy really had the gall to mansplain investments to me, she muttered. I just stood there, shaking, trying to understand how I'd been living a life built entirely on a stranger's performance. We tied Garrett's hands. Luca called back up, told them they had both the imposter and the missing man. Natalie sat on the porch, lighting a cigarette like it was just another Tuesday. The real Ethan, my actual husband, was still sitting on the steps, silent. Eventually, I walked over. He looked at me like he didn't know whether to hug me or run. I knelt beside him. What happened? I asked quietly. He told me everything. How he'd gone on a trip 2 years ago, his solo vacation he took every year, and never made it back. Drugged at a bar. ID gone. Bank accounts emptied. No way to prove who he was. Meanwhile, Garrett had slipped in, lived his life, stolen his friends, his wife. I watched you online, Ethan said, his voice cracking. Social media. Photos. Our anniversary dinner last year, I saw it all. And I couldn't stop it. I wanted to cry. But nothing came. Just numbness. Why didn't you call me? I whispered. I tried. Dozens of times. But he was already controlling your phone plan. Your passwords. Everything. Natalie stepped beside us. He had help, she said. I looked up at her. What do you mean? She took a long drag on her cigarette. Garrett doesn't work alone. There's someone else. A woman. Very powerful. She's been bankrolling these switches. Luca joined us. And we think she's the real T. Lorne. So the woman in the hotel? The one with the red dress and the mirror selfie? Just another alias. Another puppet. But the real T. Lorne? She hadn't shown herself yet. And whoever she was still out there. Watching. Before Luca's team took Garrett away, I stood over him. He opened his eyes, groggy from the sedative. And smiled. You were my favorite, he murmured. Not only. Just favorite. I stepped back. Because that's when I knew. There were others. Would you still trust your best friend if you found out she'd been lying to you, to protect your life? I didn't want to look at Natalie. Not at first. Not after what she'd just said. Not after what she knew. Because how long had she known the man I was married to wasn't the man I thought he was? How long had she been playing both sides? Was she ever really my friend, or just another handler watching me from the inside? She stood beside me on the porch, calm as ever, like we hadn't just discovered that my husband was a ghost wearing another man's skin. Like she hadn't just dragged the real Ethan to the front door. You have questions, she said. No apology. No excuse. Just that. I couldn't even answer. Couldn't breathe right. So she answered for me. I've known since last fall, she said, like she was reading my mind. I didn't know the full truth. But I knew the man living in your house wasn't Ethan. Then why didn't you say something? My voice was sharp, cracking. I tried, she said. The text I sent you the night of your anniversary? I was planning to tell you everything the next morning. But I had to be sure first. I remembered the message. Just checking in. Let me know if I should still swing by tomorrow. It had felt off even then. Too casual. Like a line rehearsed in case someone else was reading it. I stared at her. You were tracking him? Natalie nodded slowly. I was tracking her. Lauren. No. The woman posing as her. That's when she told me the real story. Not the version Garrett, fake Ethan, had given me, but the one she'd uncovered herself, quietly, while pretending to be just the best friend in the background. Lauren was never just one woman. She was a name, a system, a cover, a revolving identity worn by different people to move money, escape records, access accounts. And the real Lauren, the original, wasn't a victim. She was the architect. She ran a network, Natalie said. High-level identity construction. Sold new lives to people who wanted to disappear. Criminals. Whistleblowers. Billionaires running from taxes. She created Garrett? I asked. No, Natalie said. But she hired him. Trained him. And then she turned on him when he got sloppy. Sloppy, like marrying me? Natalie met my eyes. That was never supposed to happen. You were a cover, Claire. But he fell for the role. I didn't know whether to be disgusted or heartbroken. Maybe both. He said I was his favorite, I whispered. Natalie's face didn't move. That's exactly what he told the last woman. Luca came outside then, handing Natalie a flash drive. Encrypted, he said. All of it. Everything Garrett had on his system. She turned it over in her hand. Let her see it, Luca said. She deserves the truth. Natalie hesitated, then nodded. There's something on here you need to hear. That night, we sat in her apartment. The same one I'd been to 100 times before. It looked the same. Smelled the same. But now, everything was different. The couch felt colder. The wine she poured tasted metallic. And the flash drive sat between us like a loaded weapon. You ready? She asked. I nodded. She clicked the laptop open. A folder appeared, labeled Claire. Inside it, dozens of audio files, videos, documents. Some were labeled with dates. Others with code names. But one file was titled, Final Message, Priority. She double-clicked. It was Garrett's voice. My husband. But not the version I knew. This one was colder. Calculated. Speaking like he was dictating instructions. If you're hearing this, it means I've either been burned or made expendable. Lauren has started cleaning house. Anyone with knowledge of her methods is now a threat. That includes Claire Sullivan. She has no idea what she's caught up in, but that doesn't matter. The protocol is clear. If extraction fails, Claire becomes the distraction. The breath left my body. Make it look like an accident. A grief spiral. Gaslight her if needed. But remove her from the picture. Permanently. I looked at Natalie. And I could feel the color drain from my face. I was never supposed to survive. She nodded. You were a cover story. A legal name to build credit and access. But once the feds got involved, you became a liability. And you? I asked, voice shaking. Where do you fit into all of this? She stared straight ahead. I was planted, she said. Years ago. To monitor Garrett. But I didn't expect to care. I blinked. You were assigned to be my best friend? Yes. At first. And then you became my best friend anyway. There's a special kind of betrayal when the person who comforted you through the first betrayal turns out to be part of it too. But what do you do when they're the only one who truly protected you? I couldn't speak. So Natalie just let the silence sit there. Until she said one last thing. I'm leaving. What? I've been compromised. My name's on too many files. I'll get reassigned or burned. Either way, I won't be around. I felt the weight of those words drop between us. So that's it? She pulled something from her pocket. A small folded note. GPS coordinates. There's one more place you need to see. Where? Where Lauren built her last identity. The original. Before all the layers. Before the system. She handed it to me. If you want real answers, go there. I unfolded it. The location was rural. Unfamiliar. And handwritten at the bottom of the note. Be careful who you become. The next morning, I packed a bag. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Not Luca. Not Ethan. No one. Just me, and the truth waiting at those coordinates. But what I found when I got there wasn't just about Ethan. Or Garrett. Or even Natalie. It was about me. And what Lauren had already started, long before I ever met my husband. Can a place know who you are? Can it feel your footsteps, recognize your breath, sense the secrets curling beneath your skin? That's what it felt like the moment I arrived. The coordinates Natalie had given me led to a rural property just outside a town that didn't exist on any map. No street name. No mailbox. Just a faded trail off a winding highway and a gate sealed by rust. And beyond it, silence. Not the peaceful kind. The watched kind. The kind of silence you feel behind your teeth. The house was 2 stories. White painted wood, peeling at the edges. Shutters hanging at angles. A weather vane spinning slowly in still air. But the door? The door was clean. New. Almost deliberate. I stepped up the porch. Knocked. Nothing. I tried the knob. It turned easily. The house was unlocked. Inside, it was cold. Not physically. Psychologically. Minimal furniture. Empty picture frames. No dust, but no signs of life either. Like someone had lived here once intensely and then erased it all. I stepped forward, and the door shut behind me with a click that felt final. In the center of the living room was a single object. A chair. And on the chair, a laptop. Open. Powered on. No password. Just one blinking cursor in a search bar. Waiting for input. Like it knew I was coming. I should have walked away. But I didn't. I sat down. Typed in one word. Claire. Instantly, a list of files appeared. Dozens. Some dated before I even met Ethan. Surveillance images. Receipts. Financial records. Photos of me at coffee shops, walking to work, laughing at a party I didn't remember anyone taking pictures at. Every moment of my life archived. Labeled. Studied. And every file tagged with the same word. Test subject. I opened one labeled Claire Prime, Behavioral Matching Report. Lines of analysis appeared. Chillingly precise. Subject demonstrates ideal characteristics for long-term identity fusion. Mild confrontation aversion. High empathy response. Low-risk social profile. No close familial interference. I scrolled. Projection model. 87.4% chance of successful personality graft if introduced to control partner under emotional duress. My throat closed. They didn't just use me. They built me. Selected me. Groomed me for a role I didn't know I was playing. I clicked on a video file at the bottom. It was grainy security footage. A room. 2 women sitting at a table. One was me. Or someone who looked like me. Almost identical. Same bone structure. Same voice. But different eyes. Sharper. Calculating. And across from her was Lauren. The real one. Elegant. Sharp suit. No makeup. Pure control. They were speaking, but there was no sound. Then the footage cut. Next clip, the same room. Same table. Only now my double was alone. Crying. Hands shaking. Reading a document. And signing it. The file ended. And I just sat there. Numb. Because whoever that woman was, Claire Prime, maybe. She wasn't just a decoy. She was the original. And I was the replacement. I stood up. Staggered back from the chair like it had burned me. Because it had. Everything I thought was mine, my choices, my memories, my life, had been built on someone else's exit. And now the game had flipped. Now I wasn't the pawn. I was the prototype. That's when I heard it. Footsteps upstairs. Soft. Slow. I grabbed the laptop instinctively and backed toward the staircase. The steps creaked. One by one. And then, she appeared. Same face. Same body. But not me. The original. Claire Prime. Still alive. She stepped down the stairs with the calm of someone who had already won. You opened it, she said softly. Her voice was like mine, but colder. Cleaner. You saw everything. I nodded. What is this? I whispered. She tilted her head. This? This is freedom. I blinked. I don't understand. You weren't supposed to. That's the point. A clean transfer only works if the vessel is unaware. The vessel? I repeated. She smiled. You were the version meant to disappear when the switch was complete. When Garrett's mission failed, you became redundant. So why am I still here? She stepped closer. Because you passed. Let me stop here. Because I need you to understand something. The moment she said that, I didn't feel scared. I felt seen. Not loved. Not protected. But acknowledged. As if, for the first time in my life, someone looked at me and saw everything. And still wanted to use me. Claire Prime circled me. You're better than I expected. Adapted faster. Dug deeper. You broke protocol, but that showed initiative. I shook my head. I'm not like you. Oh, but you are. Or you wouldn't be standing here alive. She gestured to the laptop. I want to make you an offer. No. You haven't heard it yet. I don't care. You will. She opened her hand. Inside, another key card. Room 614. But this one was black. Embossed in silver. Not a hotel, she said. A facility. Offshore. No laws. No past. What for? For you. A job. I stared at it. Frozen. Then I heard her final words before I turned and ran. Don't say no just yet, Claire. Not until you ask yourself the question we already answered for you. What question? She smiled. The one every version of you fails to ask until it's too late. She leaned in close. And whispered. Who were you before we wrote you? I didn't respond. I ran. Out the front door. Into the wind. Into my car. I didn't look back. But I knew. She wasn't going to chase me. She didn't need to. Because she'd already won once. And part of me was starting to wonder. What if this whole time, my entire life, I hadn't escaped a trap, but completed one? Have you ever looked at your own name and felt like it belonged to someone else? Not in a poetic way. Not in a crisis of identity, eat, pray, love kind of way. But literally. Like your name was printed on documents, whispered by friends, carved into a mailbox, but none of it felt true. That was me. Staring at my own driver's license as I sat in my car on the side of a nameless road, trying to remember if I'd ever actually chosen any of this. Claire Sullivan. Was that a name I'd built? Or one I'd been given? Assigned. Like a barcode. I drove for hours. I didn't go home. Didn't go to Natalie. Didn't go to Luca. I just drove. Eventually, I found myself in front of my childhood home. Or at least, the place I thought I grew up. Small house. Blue shutters. Overgrown hedges. Same as I remembered. But when I rang the doorbell, the woman who answered wasn't my mother. She wasn't even someone I recognized. Can I help you? She asked, smiling like this was a normal Tuesday. Sorry, I said, confused. I used to live here. She frowned. We've owned this house for 23 years. No, I said. That's not right. My family moved here when I was 8. My bedroom was upstairs on the right. She shook her head gently. I'm sorry. You must be thinking of another place. She closed the door. And I just stood there, staring at a life that was supposed to be mine. I pulled up my old school records. Tried to log into the alumni site for my high school. My email didn't work. Neither did my name. Even the backup security question, your childhood best friend's name, felt like a punchline. Because I couldn't answer it. Not because I forgot. But because I wasn't sure that memory was real. The next day, I checked into a motel under a fake name. Not for safety. But because I needed to practice. If everything they'd said was true, then I wasn't just a victim. I was a template. A personality built on pieces. Mild confrontation aversion. High empathy. Clean background. What they'd called ideal for long-term fusion. I began to wonder. How many others like me were out there? Women or men, living lives they thought they chose, when really, they were roles. Scripts. Designed by T. Lorne. Tested. Repurposed. Perfected. And then handed off to someone else. I started digging. Deep. into black market databases, leaked files, private groups that Luca had once whispered about. I tracked down the Harlan Group, the intelligence firm Luca had worked for. Except when I called. They told me no one named Luca Morano had ever worked there. No agent by that name. No record. No history. So now let me ask you something. If the man who saved your life was a lie, and the woman who guided you into the truth was an operative, and you believed you were never existed, what do you become? A survivor? Or a ghost? I needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy. So I went to the last person I thought would be real. The real Ethan. Not Garrett. The actual Ethan Sullivan, the man I married before someone else took his place. He was staying in a government facility under protection. I got access by calling in a favor Natalie had left in her goodbye letter. A number. A name. A one-time clearance code. When I walked into the visitor room, he looked up. And for a second, he smiled. "Claire," he said softly. And it broke me. I sat across from him. "I need to know something," I said. "Something only you could answer." He nodded. "Did we ever go to Paris?" He blinked. Confused. "No. We were planning to. You even bought a guidebook, remember? But I got that last-minute client pitch and we never rebooked." I closed my eyes. That was the right answer. Garrett, fake Ethan, had told me we did go. I had even found a photo in my phone from Paris. Except now, looking at it, I realized I wasn't in it. It was just a stock image. An illusion. Another page in the script. Ethan reached out across the table. "You're not crazy," he said. "They took pieces of us. Made them tools. Gave them to people like Garrett to use, wear, and discard." "Why?" I asked. His voice darkened. "Because power doesn't care about your memories. Just your data." That night, I watched the video again. The one of the woman who looked like me, crying, signing a document. I paused it on her face. She had a scar under her left eye. So small I'd never noticed. I touched my own face. Nothing. She wasn't me. But she was close. Then I saw it. A folder next to the video, minimized the first time. I opened it. Inside, contracts. Documents stamped by something called Foundation Lauren. And a list. A long, long list. Names. Dates. Roles. All women. Next to each one, a symbol. Heavy checkmark activated. Heavy multiplication X terminated. Reassigned. My name? Not Claire Sullivan. But Asset C47 Echo. Status? Heavy checkmark. Then an update log. Subject Echo has achieved full cognitive independence. Recommend elevation to Class B handler track pending field approval. Field approval? From who? I scrolled down. And there it was. Approved. Signed by T. Lorne. Dated 2 weeks ago. Do you get it now? The woman who trained Claire Prime. The one who orchestrated Garrett's infiltration. The one Natalie claimed had disappeared. She hadn't vanished at all. She'd promoted me. I closed the laptop, stared into the motel mirror, and said it out loud. I'm not Claire. Just to hear how it sounded. Not as a confession, but a possibility. Because the next step wasn't about uncovering the truth. It was about deciding whether to become it.
How far would you go? To never feel powerless again? Because that's where I was. On the edge of something I never asked for, never saw coming, and couldn't walk away from. The Foundation had promoted me, without my knowledge. Without permission. They didn't need permission. They were already in my head. And now? They were giving me a choice that didn't feel like one at all. Join them. Or disappear like the others. I spent the next few days testing the line between who I'd been and who I was becoming. I deleted every personal contact from my phone. Except Natalie. I couldn't bring myself to erase her. Not yet. I changed my name, legally. Bought a fake ID under a new alias, Kara Ellis. The name came to me like muscle memory, like it had already belonged to me once. Maybe it had. I rented a new apartment under a shell company I traced back to the same firm T. Lorne had used in Paris. She'd left a trail, but only if you knew how to look. And me? I knew how to look now. On the 7th day, a package arrived at my door. No return address. Just a black envelope sealed with a wax insignia I didn't recognize. Inside was a single card. Welcome to Handler Track. Training begins now. Follow the signal. Attached was a small GPS tracker. No instructions. No explanation. Just a blinking green light and coordinates that updated every 4 seconds. I plugged it into my burner phone. It loaded a map. And there, pulsing slowly in the middle of the ocean, was a small island labeled with nothing but a code. L13. I knew I should have ignored it. I knew going would mean surrendering what was left of the version of myself that once cried on a rooftop, waiting for a man who never came back from the bathroom. But instead, I packed, and I flew. The plane was chartered. The crew didn't speak. The other passengers, all women, all silent, kept their eyes forward like soldiers or survivors. When we landed, we were met by silence. The island was sleek, barren, and geometric. No palm trees, no beaches, just clean steel structures rising out of sand like a Bond villain's lap. At the entrance, a woman in white greeted us. Not with a name, but a number. Welcome, Echo. I froze. You know who I am? We made you, she said simply. She handed me a folder. Inside, a contract. One line, in large, cold font. You will no longer ask who you are. You will become what you choose to be. I signed it, not out of fear, but out of curiosity, because power doesn't just corrupt. It seduces. Training wasn't what I expected. It wasn't spycraft or combat. It was control. We were taught to erase memories, implant habits, read vulnerabilities in seconds. We learned how to reframe a person's entire self-perception in a 10-minute conversation. Scripts, patterns, psychological fingerprints. We learned to map a person's life through 4 objects on their desk and dismantle it using 5 words they'd never hear coming. You're not who you think. That was the Foundation's mantra, and soon, it became mine. 1 month in, I was assigned my first shadow case. The dossier dropped on my bed at midnight. No name, just a face. A young woman. Pretty. Quiet. A librarian from Seattle. She'd been flagged as echo-eligible, which meant what exactly? That she was vulnerable? Lonely? Disposable? I didn't ask, because I already knew. They flew me to Seattle under a new alias, Marla Hayes. I rented an apartment 3 blocks from the Target, joined her gym, ordered coffee from her favorite shop, studied her voice, her habits, her handwriting, and when the time was right, I introduced myself. We met by accident in a bookstore. She dropped a book. I picked it up. We laughed, talked about thrillers, became friends. 2 weeks later, she was telling me about her ex-boyfriend, her mom's illness, her fears of being invisible. I mirrored them back to her, gently. She trusted me, too easily. It wasn't just surveillance anymore. It was insertion, infiltration. And one night, when we sat on her fire escape talking about regrets and unspoken dreams, I realized something terrifying. I liked her. I genuinely liked her. But that didn't matter. Because in the Foundation's system, empathy wasn't a weakness. It was a tool. I submitted my final report. She was approved. Echo 75. Next month, a handler would replace her. Like Garrett replaced Ethan. And the original? She'd vanish. Maybe she'd wake up somewhere with a new name and a memory wiped clean. Maybe she'd be terminated. I didn't know. I didn't ask. Because by then, I'd stopped needing answers. I'd started writing them. Back at the island, my mentor, a woman named Vera, gave me my first field rank. Echo Class, Tier B. Your next mission, she said, isn't to infiltrate. It's to lead. We want you to design a new behavioral schema. I nodded. What's the objective? Her smile was ice. We're building a Claire 2.0. I blinked. What do you mean? We want you to improve the template you came from. Make her stronger, smarter, harder to detect. I swallowed hard. You want me to upgrade myself? No, Vera said softly. We want you to replace yourself. That night, I stared at the blank profile page they handed me. A new Echo. New name. New life. It was up to me to build her. And as I started typing, something inside me shifted. Not horror, not grief, but clarity. Because when you've been rewritten enough times, you stop asking, who am I? And start asking, what can I become? You ever wonder what a single moment really costs? Not in money, in identity. Because the night Ethan left our anniversary dinner, I thought I'd lost everything. My husband, my trust, my dignity. But what I didn't know was that I hadn't lost anything. I'd been activated. Let me rewind, so you understand how far this goes. My name was Claire Sullivan. At least, that's what I believed. Until the man I married left our 7th anniversary dinner without explanation, leaving behind his phone and a trail of lies that led me straight into the arms of a stranger. A waiter named Luca handed me a key card meant for another woman. Room 614, the note said. I wasn't supposed to read it. I wasn't supposed to go to that room. But I did. And inside, I found a life that wasn't mine. A red dress, hidden messages, and a woman posing as me. Then came the truth. Ethan was a fraud. His real name? Garrett Hale. The real Ethan, the man I thought I'd married, had been missing for years, replaced by a handler sent by a covert identity syndicate known as the Foundation. They built new people, erased old ones, sold lives the way others sell stock portfolios. And me? I wasn't just a victim. I was a product. Echo 47. A test subject. A clean template, used for behavioral fusion, manipulated into becoming the perfect spouse for an imposter. I was created for loyalty, trained by deception, activated by betrayal. It wasn't an affair. It wasn't love. It was a program. Garrett had been assigned to monitor me, mold me, build a life with me that could be harvested, monetized, and discarded. And when the program failed, when I saw too much, they offered me something no one else ever had. Control. I joined them. I didn't think I would, at first. But once I saw how deep the system went, how many lives were fake, how many happy families were built on scripts and simulations, I knew I had only two options: be erased or evolve. So I evolved. I entered handler track, learned how to spot a target, mirror their vulnerabilities, write new identities, erase evidence, even design new echoes. I stopped asking who I used to be, started writing who I'd become. But here's the part one never told anyone. Not even the Foundation. I built a backdoor into the program, a kill switch, a memory code, a thread of truth buried so deep no one could rewrite it. It's in this video, right now, because maybe, just maybe, you're not real either. Maybe you're watching this thinking you'd never fall for something like that. But are you sure? Can you remember your earliest memory clearly? The exact moment you became you? Or was that part written too? I started this story with one moment. A dinner. A man walking out. A waiter bringing something back that didn't belong. But now, I end it here, with a question. What happens when the echo replaces the original? When the template becomes the architect? The Foundation made me, but they didn't see what I'd become. They built a Claire to break, but I rewrote her code. And now, I'm not Claire Sullivan. I'm not Kara Ellis. I'm not even Echo 47 anymore. I'm the one writing the story. And the next version of me? She won't ask for permission. She won't need a handler. She'll be the protocol. So if you're watching this, remember this. Your name is not your truth. Your memories can lie. And the person you trust most might have been trained to become your mirror, just like I was. Final reflection and call to action. You've heard my story. Now it's your turn to question your own. Ask yourself, who wrote your name? Who trained your emotions? And what would happen if you suddenly learned your life was the mask, not the face? Like, share, stay awake. Because the moment you stop asking who you are is the moment they write it for you.